Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Hamilton County Sports Football Coaches Show. It's a Monday night, it's 7 o'clock, and we are very pleased to have all of the Hamilton County coaches here with us tonight to talk about high school football here in the great county of Hamilton County here in Indiana. Before we get going with the program tonight, which, by the way, is brought to you by Greek's Pizza, it's 773-4444, located on South 10th Street in Noblesville. Dine in or take out. The Westfield Chamber of Commerce, Logan Street Signs and Banners, Noblesville Trophies, and the Hamilton County Reporter. One of the great things about the media is every once in a while we get to throw a little bit of a personal note in. As all of you are aware, today is 9/11. 9/11 is a very special day to me. I had employees in the World Trade Center. The names that you see on the front of this desk right now, Ken Lara, Ed Saya, Frankie Serrano, and Derek Washington, were people who worked for me back in 2001 who died during the 9/11 attack in the nation, or in New York City. They were 4 of the 2,753 victims of that attack on that building. And I'd just like to take a moment to remember these guys. Every year, it's a special day for me on 9/11, remembering these 4 guys who meant so much to me, not only on a personal basis, but on a career basis. Also, we'd like to keep our thoughts and prayers for everybody who was involved with Hurricane Harvey here about a week and a half ago, and of course everybody who is in the aftermath of Hurricane Irma. A lot going on. So let's get to football. We're joined by Noblesville head coach Jason Simmons. Coach, Friday night was probably one of the best ball games I have seen in a long time. And I guess as it was over, my initial thought was so close and yet so far.
You know, if you bought a $6 ticket to that football game, you certainly got your money's worth. And I made that comment to my wife at the end of the game. I hate losing. And she comes up after the game and she said, "Your kids played inspired." And I said, "I know, but I hate it. I hate it." And she said, "You know what? That was one hell of a football game, though." And she's a football fan, obviously. She's a coach's wife, and it took me a second to realize that our kids did play inspired, but that was a heck of a football game. And for our kids to come out and play the way they did after starting the year 0-3, I felt like our kids competed, played with a great deal of energy, and we took the number 10 team in 6A down to the wire. I was proud of our performance, and know that coming back from it, we still have plenty to work on and get better at.
Well, I thought it was an overall, obviously the best performance by your team all season, but it was just as you said, a ticket to that game, regardless of what you pay, was one heck of a deal. It was just a great game. Well, let's talk specifically about the game. Go out to a 13-7 lead in the first quarter. Halftime, it's 20-17, and let's just talk about the first half and how things transpired there first.
I felt like for us, we needed to have success offensively early. We got moving after we fumbled the opening kickoff. Our defense got a huge stop, forced a missed field goal by Westfield. We got the ball back. We put a drive together, got to around midfield, pulled out a trick play for us. Zach Groover hit Jaden Barrett on a double pass for a touchdown, and that really sparked our kids. I felt like we could compete and play with them, but I felt like we needed to have success early, and getting that first stop and then hitting that trick play to put us up 7-0, I felt like was huge. It gave our kids a lot of momentum.
Quite a little feat there for Groover. One pass for 51 yards. A nice little play.
It's not a bad line at all. And that was Jaden's first Friday night varsity catch, and it goes for a touchdown. And so, that was I thought that was a huge play for us early in the ball game, getting us going.
Offensively, you guys dominated a lot of the stats overall. 229 yards and 38 rushes, and passing wise, 16 for 25. Not really a bad night.
Yeah, it was by far our best offensive performance, and I really thought the guy that drove that performance was Grant Grimmel. Grant had a down down game against Carmel, followed that up with the worst game against Fishers, I think. And so we really challenged him to be better. We challenged him all week in practice, challenged him Friday. He had to carry our football team, and he certainly rose to the occasion. I was happy with the way Grant played. The other two guys that really stood out for us offensively were Luke Blevins and Christian Collier.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those guys complemented each other really well in the run game. Christian didn't pile up as many yards as he wanted, but his unselfish play, blocking for Luke, catching, he had a couple of catches out of the backfield. He ran really hard. Those two complemented each other really well, and between the three of those guys, Grant, Luke, and Christian, I felt like our backfield played really, really well Friday.
Receivers had a pretty good night too.
Yeah, we did. We played some young guys. We had a couple of young guys that really shined in practice. Zach Groover being one of those guys. He played on the defensive side of the ball predominantly against Carmel and Fishers. We got some guys back on the defensive side of the ball, brought Zach back over, and he took our passing game to a different level. And Jaden Barrett, he made his first varsity start, had a terrific game. We're getting great production from Carson Sanders, who's another big physical sophomore that's played inside for us, and so we're certainly excited about that as well.
Let's look at the defensive side of this game, because
He's got a 20.
is that what he did in the first game?
Mm-hmm.
First game.
Yeah, it's really kind of a freakish deal. He tore his LCL and nothing else, no meniscus. And usually, if you tear your LCL, it just gets so unstable, everything goes.
His dad does a lot of work for us.
His dad is an unbelievable guy.
So we're nowhere. So we're just going to start all over.
You want to start it all over?
Well, otherwise.
Okay. You will start it?
He's looking at 2 minutes of a show.
Okay. Well, yeah, all right.
I'm trying to explain.
Okay.
The internet went down here.
Dress rehearsal.
Dress rehearsal. Take two. Take two. Jim, how often does that happen here?
Very rare.
Yeah, it's the first time it's happened.
The software, we had an upgrade on Friday.
Okay.
So this is a second show we've done with a new upgrade, and I think they still have some bugs in it.
Yeah.
Should I close that window there, Jim? We picking up the cars going by?
And if you're not, I was concerned of getting hot in here.
Yeah.
When we started, had that big truck.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard them going by there.
Okay. There's that. Since we got to redo it, I got to redo Facebook. Just give me quickly 5 minutes here. And I'll get that on quickly. Should have been. Didn't. That's a struggle about technology. I gotta redo everything here. Yeah, went as far as the opening, versus the logo, and then the Hamilton County TV look, and that's when it died.
Oh, so nothing went out.
No, nothing went out.
Oh, okay.
Royals struggled a little Friday.
Periscope, and we had like a minute 15 seconds.
They made a quarterback change that I think is going to help.
Yeah.
I like Cody Huppenthal. He's a nice kid. His dad, of course, is the girls' varsity coach, and
It was a matter of time for that move, wasn't it?
I think it was.
Yeah.
And I think it was. I'd seen Cody play a couple times last year, and I just wasn't impressed. I'm sorry in that, and I think Cody's. I had more people Sunday and Monday. When I got to church Sunday, of course, I had not been at that game. I'd been, at your game, and I had more people saying, "You guys have got a quarterback of the future there," and
And I think that sparked him in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Gave him a different element.
But you know, in those Fishers HSE games, all the years I've been doing them, there really haven't been, there's been a few runaways here and there, but for the most part, they've been
one possession games.
Yeah, it's it's just one of those.
It's almost like you don't want to be the one that runs out with the big lead.
Yeah,
because something's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, one year Fishers was ahead 38-0 and lost,
Mm-hmm.
and then last year they were way ahead, and HSE came back and tied it in regulation. Then we had 2 rain delays.
Yep, I remember that.
And we had one a few years ago that
We're gonna shut down this other computer.
there was a rain delay on, and you know, I told people, I said, good evening, everybody. Hamilton County Television welcomes you to the Hamilton County Football Coaches Show. It's Monday. It's a little bit after 7, and the coaches are all enjoying pizza and like to welcome them in. The Hamilton County Coaches Show is brought to you by Greek's Pizza on South 10th Street in Noblesville. Dine in or take it out. Give them a call, 317-773-4444. Also, the Westfield Chamber of Commerce, Logan Street Signs, Noblesville Trophies, and the Hamilton County Reporter. My name is Brad Silbert. We're going to be talking to Coach Jason Simmons here in just a few moments. But before we get started tonight, the wonderful medium of television is allowing me to throw a personal note in today. Today is 9/11. On 9/11 of 01, I lost 4 people in the World Trade Center bombing who I was very close to. These are people who worked for me when I worked for GTE Internetworking. You see their names on the screen there. Kenny Lara, Ed Saya, Frankie Serrano, and Derek Washington, all wonderful people that unfortunately were inside of the World Trade Center when the bombing occurred. We want to remember all 3 of these guys, rather all 4 of these guys, plus a lot of other people who lost their lives during that tragedy. 2,753 people gave their lives in the World Trade Center bombing on September 11th, 2001. We'd also like to just take a moment to remember all of those in our thoughts and prayers, everybody who has been involved in the Houston area with Hurricane Harvey, and especially those now who are involved with Hurricane Irma, as it has made its way through Florida and wreaked all kinds of damage. And hopefully the damage will be light and the loss of life will be light. Well, let's get over to football here. We're joined by Miller's head coach, Jason Simmons. Jason, I said it to you a little bit earlier, so close and yet so far on Friday night.
Yeah, no question. If you had a $6 ticket to that ball game, you got one heck of a ball game Friday night. And hats off to Westfield and Coach Gilbert and his staff and his program for finding a way to win a close one at the end. It was one heck of a ball game. One heck of a ball game for sure.
What was the big difference in the game for you guys? It looked like as things were going along, it was just kind of even all the way along.
I felt like our kids finally believed that they could go compete and play, and they certainly played like it. I felt like our kids have gone into every game knowing that they could compete and play with our opponent. But as the game wore on, that kind of belief wavered a little bit. I felt like our energy was good throughout, our effort was good throughout, and our kids just kept playing and kept competing. And I think that was our challenge to them throughout the week was, can your belief stay up for 48 minutes? Can you go compete and play hard for 48 minutes, and quit looking at the scoreboard? And just don't get wrapped up in what that thing says. Just go compete and play hard and find out how good you can be. And, we certainly got one step closer to that Friday night.
Well, you said it just a few moments ago, that $6 ticket for that game Friday night. was one heck of a bargain. Let's talk about the offense here. Several people had great offensive performances for the Millers.
Yeah, we were spearheaded by our offensive line. That group continues to gel and grow. I thought they were sluggish early in the season. Weren't always playing as well as we could. Weren't playing smart football up front. For us to go to Westfield and compete against what I think is a really good defense and put up 230 yards rushing, I was certainly proud of that. Grant Grimmel, we got really good quarterback play. Grant's had 2 bad games in a row with the Carmel game and with the Fishers game. We challenged him quite a bit in practice this week. Challenged him on Friday to carry the load a little bit, and he responded to that challenge. Had over 100 yards rushing, managed the passing game really well. Christian Collier and Luke Blevins were 2 guys that we were ecstatic about their performance. Played really unselfish football. They didn't care which one of them got the carry, didn't care which one of them got the credit. They both ran hard, they both blocked for each other, and they certainly had each other's backs throughout. And so offensively, it was by far our best football game of the year.
Little razzle-dazzle there with Groover.
Yeah, a little razzle-dazzle early. Zach has played predominantly on the defensive side of the ball week 2 and week 3. He certainly gave our energy. He gave our offense some energy and a spark. That's a trick play that we've had in our bag for a while. Most people don't anticipate a left-handed kid throwing that ball. But on our first drive, we put a good drive together, got to midfield. And I felt like our offense coordinator, Caleb Small, called it at the right time. And Zach and Jaden, Jaden's first varsity catch is a 51-yard touchdown on the road. So that was huge for that kiddo. And Zach, that ball, we've all seen that ball look a little different. And Jaden was so wide open. Zach just did a nice job collecting himself and putting the ball right on him.
Well, Gremmel also had a good job, or a good day running with 14 carries, 107 yards.
He made plays not only in the designed quarterback run game, but when the pocket broke down, he looked confident and he looked aggressive. And 2 of his scrambles were very impressive runs. And he really, I felt like he really grew up Friday quite a bit.
As the game was going on, Craig and I were talking about how it looked like Grant was really maturing in that role of quarterback, where he kind of got thrust into it last year, and the couple earlier games this season he looked just a little tentative, but I thought he looked. I don't want to say cocky or something like that, but he looked like he had confidence out there himself.
No question. He played with conviction, and that was the challenge that we gave to him, not only all week in practice, but even Friday night, on the drive over, pregame, we were in his ear about playing with conviction and not being comfortable back there, and he certainly responded and carried our offense Friday.
Defense also did a great job on Friday night, coming up with some big plays.
I thought we got a bunch of stops Friday, and that was huge going into it. We got misaligned on the 77-yard touchdown pass. They put the formation in the boundary. Our kids didn't recognize it. We as a coaching staff didn't help them do that. And then we got ourselves out of position a couple of times, and you can't do that against a well-coached football team and a well-oiled machine like Westfield, because they certainly exploited it to the tune of big plays. But we got timely stops defensively. I thought our kids played hard, played well. We just got to continue to play smarter and play with more discipline on that side of the ball.
Well, one of the things I've maintained is you look at the Hoosier Crossroads Conference, and yes, you've got some teams down there. Your team, Hamilton Southeastern, between the two of you, you've won 1 game, but there really aren't bad teams in this conference. There's just a lot of great talent in this conference.
I think it's hands down the second best conference in the state of Indiana. And anytime you're playing any sport in Hamilton County, you're going to play against some of the best in the state. And you look at our strength of schedule right now. Our strength of schedule is really high.
Yes.
Our kids have continued. Our kids have just continued to chip away at it, and I feel like that's what we have to do. We have to continue to chip away and keep getting better week in and week out, and we certainly made strides towards that this Friday.
Let's talk about the walking wounded, as we will call them. I want to specifically talk about Wyatt Blades. How is he coming along?
Wyatt got his first game action since Lawrence North this past Friday, and really played well on the back end. He brings to us an element that our defense really didn't have in terms of just being that leader back there, that voice in the secondary. He does a nice job communicating and making sure guys get lined up. And as he gets more comfortable and more acclimated to playing with that brace on, I think he's going to continue to get better for us. Zach Tuanay got his first game action since Lawrence North. had an interception return for a touchdown that got called back, but Zach played well. Those guys are going to continue to get better as the season goes on.
Well, I've heard so many people say, there's really no such thing as a moral victory, and I won't call it a moral victory, but even with an unfortunate loss, and I know no coach, no fan of the team wants to see his or her team lose. I thought overall that the Millers put a good performance on Friday night.
We got better, and that was priority number one. Making that drive across 38. We had to get better as a football team, and we certainly had plenty to work on last week. We challenged ourselves as coaches. We challenged our kids. We challenged our entire program to grow and get better that week, and we certainly did that. Excited about the work that we got. Excited about the progress we made Friday. We can't go backwards and be comfortable at this point. We have to continue to put the hammer down and grow.
Friday night, and I believe that will be, is that a 7:30 game Friday night now?
7:30 start.
Okay, Friday night at 7:30. Zionsville comes over to Hare Chevrolet Field for homecoming. Let's talk a little bit about the Eagles and how you're going to prepare for them.
They're very explosive offensively. They got playmakers at the quarterback position, playmakers at the running back and slot receiver. They got a good outside receiver. They got a good tight end. So you look at them offensively, and they will leave you sleepless for sure. And so we have to be able to get lined up to defend personnel and make sure that we're disciplined in our reads. They're very multiple in terms of trick plays and some of the things that they like to do. They will stress you in areas that some teams just don't. They'll stress us in special teams. They'll stress us with trick plays, and I think their speed can give people fits as well. Defensively, they're multiple, and so I think the more multiple they are, the more sound we have to be in our plan of attack for them. And so we're certainly going to have our hands full. Our schedule doesn't get any easier by any stretch, and so we got to continue to grow as a program and get better this week.
That's Coach Jason Simmons. Coach, thank you for joining us tonight. We'll be back with more on the Hamilton County Coaches Show after these words from our sponsors.
Can I help you?
Yeah, I'd like to order a hamburger, fries, salt, maybe a large vanilla shake.
It's a trophy shop, can't you tell?
You got carry out?
Everything that you need, we have here at the shop. Very unique. You order today, carry out tonight. That's our version of carry out.
All right, I'll take one of everything.
Oh, that may take a little longer. We'll have it for you tomorrow night.
I'll be back tomorrow to pick it up.
We'll be waiting for you.
The IHSAA, in partnership with Blue Frame Technology, is pleased to announce that you can now watch your favorite IHSAA sports on the all-new IHSAA TV Apple TV app. Watch live or search through thousands of archived broadcasts. Have an older Apple TV? You can still watch on your TV by going to AirPlay on your iOS device and choosing Apple TV. Download the new Apple TV app now in the Apple TV App Store.
Breast care navigation at Community is a lot like sailing. Navigators have to read the wind without seeing the wind.
The breast care navigator will follow the patient and their family through the continuum of care.
My nurse navigator was always there.
Just to be an advocate for that patient.
You need the biggest support system that you can, and to know that you have one other person there who can help you through it is definitely something that is amazing.
Can I help you?
Yeah. I'm looking for Logan Street signs and banners.
You found us.
But this ain't Logan Street.
We moved 22 years ago.
You're telling me that Logan Street signs and banners isn't on Logan Street anymore?
Exactly.
So what are you saying?
Logan Street signs and banners conveniently not located on Logan Street, but on South 10th Street in Noblesville, Indiana.
Welcome back to the Hamilton County Coaches Show. Monday night, it's Greek's Pizza Night here at the Hamilton County Television Studios. Greek's Pizza, one of our fine sponsors. Dine in, or you can take it home with you. Give them a call, 317-773-4444. We're also sponsored by the Westfield Chamber of Commerce, Logan Street Signs, Noblesville Trophies, and the Hamilton County Reporter. Well, Coach Bud Wright joins us, and I was just asking him just before we went on the air, How's Kevin doing? I know he's been down there in Bradenton. Did they manage to get away from the storm okay?
Right. They got out late, but it was beginning to hit, and he said he was traveling pretty fast going up 75. They were stopped for a while, but then he said he got going pretty good. They were headed back to Indiana, but they got up the northern part of Florida and decided to go to Gulf Shores. So they're in a condo in Gulf Shores right now.
Well, most important thing is they're safe.
Yes, that's definitely true.
Coach Wright, I don't know what to say about that game Friday night. 28-27, a great 1-point victory for the Blackhawks.
Yes, it was. It was probably the best victory we've had in probably the last 5 years. We lost to this team last year. We lost to them twice, and they had 8 starters back on both sides of the ball. So they're a pretty good ball club. They'd won 13 out of their last 14 games. And we really came on, really played a good football game, and got down 13-0, and then we decided to come back and make a struggle out of it, and then it was a dogfight from then all the rest of the game.
Offensively, it looks like you had several people you could give the star of the game to.
Oh yes, we had a lot of kids that really came through for us. I know that Joe Callahan carried the ball 47 times for 232 yards, and that was the main core as far as the ball game's concerned right there. And then Tanner Swindle, offensive line, and Chris Starks, offensive line, defensive line, really did an excellent job. So those 3 kids we said were actually our players of the game, so we gave it to 3 kids this week.
Callahan, 4 touchdowns.
4 touchdowns.
That's something you don't see very often.
Well, when you carry the ball 47 times, I guess you need to score to carry that many.
Did you bench the rest of the backfield? Or?
No, they did an excellent job blocking for him. They really did.
Yeah. Well, it was obviously a come-from-behind victory. At one point, you trailed in the game, trailed right from the onset, and trailed till you got into the fourth quarter there, made up a lot of ground in the second quarter,
yes.
And then only 1 score in the second half.
Right. They jumped out to a 13-0 lead. They took the ball right down to opening kickoff, and the very first play they had a long pass and went down and scored, and then they blocked a punt and took it in for a score. So we're down 13-0, and then so we had a long drive. Actually, it was an 81-yard drive, and made it 13-7. And they came right back and scored and made it 20-7. So we were down 13 points twice, and then we second quarter we took the lead at 21-20. Like I said, we had 21 points in that second quarter, and right before halftime, though, they scored again, made it 27-21. But we felt pretty good going in at halftime with it being that close. And we came out the second half and drove down and scored, and that was it. The first drive, the second half scored. That was all that she wrote. We made a couple big adjustments defensively that really helped us out.
I was just going to ask. It looks like when you see 2 goose eggs up there in the third and fourth quarter, obviously it had to be something that you and your coaching staff saw and probably talked about at halftime. And
right.
What kind of adjustments did you make?
Well, in the first half they had 286 yards passing, and they'd only completed 3 passes for that total, so they'd hit 3 long passes. So we made an adjustment defensively in our backfield, and the second half they completed 1 pass for a -4 yards. So we shut the passing game completely off second half, and like I say, it was basically just an adjustment we made in coverage, and got the job done.
You most definitely inspired the defense.
Right. We had, like I say, we had a little talk at halftime, and they took on the challenge, and like I say, the adjustments done the trick for us.
Well, we're looking at just about the halfway point of the season here with the game against Carroll coming up this weekend. You have Clinton Prairie, and of course you're at 3-0 in the conference. Clinton Prairie at 2-0 in the conference.
Right.
So you could call this kind of a little bit of a battle for the lead in the Hoosier Heartland.
Right. This is a big ball game for us in that respect. Prairie's got a good ball club. I don't think they're as good a team as Carroll. Last year, Carroll won the conference, and we were second. And I think Clinton Prairie was like third or fourth in the conference, third, I believe. So it looks like it's the same type of dogfight. We finally got lucky off our back and beat Carroll here, and now we got to take on the Clinton Prairie Gophers.
Now, what do you do to prepare for Clinton Prairie? Are they predominantly a passing team, more of a running team, or what will they put up against you?
They run a lot of things similar to what Carroll did. They like to spread you out. They like to throw the ball all over the place. They got 3 and 4 and 5 receivers, out on catching the ball, and then they'll bring in. They got a big running back who started for 4 years. Actually, he started offensively for 4 years and defensively for 4 years, and he's a heck of a good football player. He probably beat us 2 years ago at our place. We played him. He was a sophomore, and he had a field day against us. So we got to stop him from running, and then we got to stop the pass.
Well, certainly good luck to you this coming weekend. I know in just about a month we're going to be out there to be bringing the final game of the season, your South Decatur game. We'll have that as the game of the week here on Hamilton County Television, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you and your staff and everybody out there in Sheridan. But in the meantime, it looks like the rest of the schedule really is a little bit tough for you guys. You get the home game against Clinton Prairie, and then you're on the road for 3.
3 games in a row on the road. That's right.
And Taylor, Tipton, and Eastern. So that kind of that'll be a little bit of a tough stretch, won't it?
That's a stretch we got to get ourselves ready for and get ready to play. The South Decatur game, the game that comes out is our homecoming game, and so we'll have a big festivities there. But it doesn't seem possible that we're this close to the, like I say, this is actually time-wise, we're halfway, more than halfway through the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
The time we started practice, so
it
just doesn't seem possible. Time flies away, and
4 games down. The 5th will be down this week,
that's right.
And only the 4 to go.
So
that's Coach Bud Wright of the Sheridan Blackhawks. Coach, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you being here, and good luck this weekend. And we'll be back with more interviews with Hamilton County football coaches in just a moment.
Can I help you?
Yeah, I'd like to order a hamburger, fries, salt, maybe a large vanilla shake.
This is a trophy shop, can't you tell?
You got carry out?
Everything that you need, we have here at the shop. Very unique. You order today, carry out tonight. That's our version of carry out.
All right, I'll take one of everything.
Well, that may take a little longer. We'll have it for you tomorrow night.
I'll be back tomorrow to pick it up.
We'll be waiting for you.
The IHSAA, in partnership with Blue Frame Technology, is pleased to announce that you can now watch your favorite IHSAA sports on the all-new IHSAA TV Apple TV app. Watch live or search through thousands of archived broadcasts. Have an older Apple TV? You can still watch on your TV by going to AirPlay on your iOS device and choosing Apple TV. Download the new Apple TV app now in the Apple TV App Store.
Breast care navigation at Community is a lot like sailing. Navigators have to read the wind without seeing the wind.
The breast care navigator will follow the patient and their family through the continuum of care.
My nurse navigator was always there.
Just to be an advocate for that patient.
You need the biggest support system that you can, and to know that you have one other person there who can help you through it is definitely something that is amazing.
Can I help you?
Yeah. I'm looking for Logan Street signs and banners.
You found us.
But this ain't Logan Street.
We moved 22 years ago.
You're telling me that Logan Street signs and banners isn't on Logan Street anymore?
Exactly.
So what are you saying?
Logan Street Signs and Banners, conveniently not located on Logan Street, but on South 10th Street in Noblesville, Indiana.
Welcome back to the Hamilton County Coaches Show, brought to you by Greek's Pizza on South 10th Street in Noblesville. Dine in, or you can carry out at 317-773-4444. Other sponsors, the Westfield Chamber of Commerce, our friends at Logan Street Signs, at Noblesville Trophies, and the fine folks over at the Hamilton County Reporter. We're joined by Hamilton Heights head coach Mitch Street. Coach Street, it's
Ross.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. Got
That's
that
all
wrong.
good.
I'm sorry. Coach, a rough start for the team so far this year.
Yeah, we're not where we normally have been or where we want to be, of course, but I think part of that's a lot of growing pains. But we have seen some growth in our team on a weekly basis, and we're getting closer to where we want to be. But you know, there's times where we see 6 sophomores on both sides of the ball at any given time, and so when you're that, you're just not at the point where you want to be. But we're getting closer, that's for sure.
Well, you started off the season with a couple losses to Mount Vernon by just 4 points, and not what I would call a real bad loss to Kokomo. But then Lewis, Cass, and Tipton these last couple of weeks have really been tough ones for you guys.
Yeah, when you kind of get into division play, those people know you a little bit more and can prepare for you accordingly. What we end up seeing is that we've had a little bit of a turnover bug in the last couple weeks. We've put the ball on the ground. I think we had 5 turnovers against Lewis Cass. We had 3, I think, against Tipton, and those guys, you know, they're reloading too, but they're coming from a standpoint where Tipton's playing a bunch of juniors. Lewis Cass has some kids, and they kind of went through these growing pains last year. So I think they're just kind of a year ahead of us in development. Looking at it defensively, going against the spread, we're down. We get 2 injuries early in the game, have 2 other DBs that are out against Tipton. So we're playing with guys that we didn't necessarily even practice with during the week. And the guys that we did put in there did a great job kind of adjusting on the fly. But to have your kind of a plan going in and then facing with at least 4 people in your defensive backfield that you had planned to at least rotate in, not be there, it definitely hurts against a passing team like Tipton and with the good QB and receiver set that they have.
Well, Tipton has got to be one of, you know, they're a neighbor of yours, and that's got to be one of your big rivalry games all season too, isn't it?
Yes, you know, that's been a rivalry game. We have a trophy for it since mid-2006, 2005, and so it's kind of been a big deal. They've constantly been on our schedule in the last few years. Now they're in our conference the last couple years, so you know, seeing them on a yearly basis obviously adds up to it. You know, when we had success and went to state one year, then the next year they made a run and went to state, and you know, so we've always kind of been kind of back and forth with this, and so always getting a chance to just go 9 miles down the road and play a team that you know well is always fun.
Yeah.
And obviously it's competitive for both kids and coaches and communities.
Well, I can remember a number of years ago when Jim Wofford and I were both with HCTV, the old hometown television network, and coming up to Tipton and Hamilton Heights and doing the Tipton Huskies games, and they were always they were always good games. They were very competitive, and the fan support was amazing.
Yeah, the nice part is it is a close game. We usually end up playing Tipton now, and it's Pork Festival, so there's a bunch of people in town for all that stuff, and so they always have a good crowd, and they travel well. And then we usually have a good crowd, and we travel well. And so it's always great because you have a lot of lineage in there, and with the two communities being so close together, you have parents in the stands that played on either team, and so it kind of runs a lot deeper than a lot of the other teams that we play, being in the Kokomo area or picking up Mount Vernon for the last couple of years. But it's just really usually a great atmosphere, and we always appreciate the chance to go and compete against a team like Tipton.
I'm looking at your schedule here, and Hamilton Heights is a 3A school. Probably one of these days you'll be ready to move up to 4A shortly, the way things are growing out there. But you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of your opponents are either class 4, 5, or you will even going to have a 6A opponent coming up here in a couple of weeks with Noblesville. You guys play a tough schedule.
Yeah, and that's something that we kind of talked about. We used to be in a conference where it wasn't always a week-to-week competitive edge, and so when that conference disbanded and the 4 teams stayed, added Tipton, joined the Hoosier Conference, it gave us a chance to go and compete with some caliber teams. And then when we have openings, we had a good opportunity to go with Noblesville. There's shared blood there in coaching staffs. There's adding Kokomo kind of as a 2-year basis. We didn't get to play them last year, but we got to play them this year. And then in Mount Vernon in a 4-year contract, and it's just been really great because we get to see us go and compete at a higher level, and it prepares us a little bit better for what we're going to see in the sectional. A lot of times when you see some of those higher caliber teams, like West Lafayette, or even if you get into, Garin or Brebeuf or teams like that.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the Tipton game, offensively and defensively. Stars of the game.
Offensively, we got some good production from Luke Hurt, who's our center. Had a one-on-one matchup a lot of the night. Blake Wable didn't have a great first half, came and ended up having a decent second half for him. And then you can't overlook Cameron Knott's touchdown at the end of the half. 1 second left on the clock, threw it up to him. He went and made a great catch, scored a touchdown, gave us a little bit of an edge going into halftime. Defensively, Jason Reinert, playing linebacker, did a really nice job. We asked him to play some man, which is a little out of character for him, but he rose to the challenge. And then Cole Portwood, defensive end. That kid has one of the best motors I've ever seen. He's a young kid, but he's always going and does a lot of good things for us. Before we talk about next week's game against Northwestern, how's the health of the team looking? We're all right. We got banged up a little bit in Tipton. We're going to see Isaiah Campbell out for a couple weeks. It hurts us a little bit offensively more than defensively. And then our safety, Austin Stepp, got banged up a little bit, and he has a scan tomorrow, and we'll see where he's at. But other than that, I think we're kind of recovering from some other injuries that we've had and getting back to full strength. You traveled to Northwestern this weekend. Overall, they're 3-1, 0-1 in the conference in the Eastern Division. How are you preparing for them? Honestly, defensively, the nice part is that they're very similar to what Tipton does. So they're going to be a spread attack. They're going to try and throw a quick game and stuff like that, and then try and take their shots when they can get them. They're going to be a little bit more heavy in their run than what Tipton is. So, I mean, going into it planning-wise, it's similar to what we already faced. The nice part is we have kind of a benchmark because we both played Lewis Cass, so you can kind of judge from a talent of seeing a team that you've already played and then them against on film against them, and gives you a kind of a point of reference on what you're looking at, speed-wise, size-wise, all that stuff. So that's nice. Okay. Coach, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Hopefully we'll see either you or Coach Street back here next week. And we'll be back with more on the Hamilton County Coaches Show after this.
Can I help you?
Yeah, I'd like to order a hamburger, fries, salt, maybe a large vanilla shake.
This is a trophy shop, can't you tell?
You got carry-out?
Everything that you need, we have here at the shop. Very unique. You order today, carry out tonight. That's our version of carry out.
All right, I'll take one of everything.
Well, that may take a little longer. We'll have it for you tomorrow night.
I'll be back tomorrow to pick it up.
We'll be waiting for you.
The IHSAA, in partnership with Blue Frame Technology, is pleased to announce that you can now watch your favorite IHSAA sports on the all-new IHSAA TV Apple TV app. Watch live or search through thousands of archived broadcasts. Have an older Apple TV? You can still watch on your TV by going to AirPlay on your iOS device and choosing Apple TV. Download the new Apple TV app now in the Apple TV App Store.
Breast care navigation at Community is a lot like sailing. Navigators have to read the wind without seeing the wind.
The breast care navigator will follow the patient and their family through the continuum of care.
My nurse navigator was always there.
Just to be an advocate for that patient.
You need the biggest support system that you can, and to know that you have one other person there who can help you through it is definitely something that is amazing.
Can I help you?
Yeah. I'm looking for Logan Street signs and banners.
You found us.
But this ain't Logan Street.
We moved 22 years ago.
You're telling me that Logan Street signs and banners isn't on Logan Street anymore?
Exactly.
So what are you saying?
Logan Street Signs and Banners, conveniently not located on Logan Street, but on South 10th Street in Noblesville, Indiana.
Welcome back to the Hamilton County Coaches Show, brought to you by Greek's Pizza on South 10th Street. Dine in or carry it out. If you want to carry it out, give them a call ahead of time, 317-773-4444. Greek's Pizza is the official pizza of the Hamilton County Coaches Show. Also brought to us tonight by the Westfield Chamber of Commerce, Logan Street Signs and Banners, and Noblesville Trophies, along with the fine folks at the Hamilton County Reporter. You know, I was reading the paper Saturday morning, Coach, and I really like what the headline said there. It said, Golden Eagles remain perfect.
Far from it. I dispute that headline. I'm not sure what they mean by that. Yes. No, our kids played hard, and we still made a lot of mistakes, obviously, but it's every week. We're just trying to get better.
Let's talk about specifically about the game. You guys came out and put up a lot of points before Howe even put anything on the board.
Yeah, we had an opportunity to get some of our second-tier guys in there pretty early and get them some good time. And for the most part, many of our freshmen played the whole second half. So it was nice to see our starters come out and do what they needed to, and it was great to see some pretty good execution still when we put some other kids in.
Thomas Kaiser looked like he had another good game.
You know, Thomas, I think I'm not sure how many times he carried it, didn't get it all that many times. He and Dylan Crossan kind of shared the load early on. Dylan's a really talented junior who plays free safety for us, but we wanted to get him some more carries. So they kind of shared things early. They both did a good job and then turned it over to some other guys late.
How about the passing game? How's that looking today?
Okay. You know, I think, I don't know, our starter was maybe 5 for 6 or something like that. Again, limited time, but hit him over the top once or twice and made good reads and took care of the football and was efficient. Luke Keller, our 2-year starter quarterback, does a nice job. And we got a number of receivers who have played well this year. Brendan Downey had a long touchdown pass in that game, and he's put up some touchdowns this year. He's done a good job.
When you have a game where you have a 54-14 edge in the game, as you get late in the game, do you approach it any different when you've got a big lead like that?
We have obviously different players going in the game, but you know, we try our best to make sure our expectations don't change as far as the effort we expect from them and the mental focus and you know, based on ability, the level of execution. Sometimes your tactics change. I mean, obviously with our freshmen in there, some of the formations and things that we do get a little bit simpler. You know, but we still want them to run the offense, and they go in and still throw it a little bit, but you know, we're not trying to do anything out of character or that doesn't reflect the class of Guerin Catholic High School, but at the same time we want them to have the opportunity to execute the offense.
We're just about halfway through the season. One more game, and we're kind of, I guess you'd say, you know, kind of on that cusp right now. That you know, we've got 4 in the books. The 5th will be in the books this weekend. Are you satisfied with the progress of the team?
Never. You know, I think that's probably universal for all coaches. We're really excited that we've gotten a lot better at some things. We're still a little bit frustrated that we haven't cleaned up some things that we know we could or should by now. You know, but all that's in the past. We're not going to worry about it. You block it out, and we focus on what we're going to do this week, and we just want to be better.
Well, one of the things, you know, for you guys is a Circle City conference that you're in. Your conference games are the last, well, 3 of the last 4 games of the season. That's That's a little bit different. How does that weigh in preparation and everything?
Well, and we've only done it for 1 year, so this is only the second year of it. Last year, the 3 games that you're talking about that are coming up are Bishop Chatard, Brebeuf Jesuit, and Roncalli, which for us this year are weeks 6, 7, and 9.
Mm-hmm.
Last year they were actually weeks 7, 8, and 9. So we moved it around a little bit to spread them out a little bit, but still it's kind of a juggernaut down the stretch. But we'll worry about them when we get to it. We'll take each one at a time and give them our best shot. They're all 3 great programs, and we're just going to worry about the one that we're playing that particular week.
You go on the road to Broad Ripple this weekend. Tell me a little bit about the Rockets and how you're getting set for them.
You know, they play hard, and they have some good athletes, and they'll spread you out and try to make you defend the whole field, and play some good aggressive coverage on defense. And you know, their D line will try to disrupt and create a new line of scrimmage. You know, we want to be familiar with what they do, just like any of our opponents, but we're going to try to focus on executing what we're best at and what we know we need to get better at as the year goes on. So we'll approach them just like we do anybody else and try to give them our best shot on Friday.
I'm a little curious about one of your opponents here. I've seen Bowman Academy before in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen them in football. What do you know about Bowman?
Played them 2 years ago. We also saw them on film last week. They beat our last week opponent was Hal for us, and they had beaten them the week before. So we know a little bit, but we haven't dug into them real deep, and we won't really until we play them. But when we hosted them a couple years ago, they had some real good athletes and played great, played hard, and all had real positive attitudes. It was a fun game, and you know, they were nice young men, and you know, a credit to the sport and everything else. So you know, not real familiar with them yet, this year's version. But we did see them a little bit last week.
I'm familiar with their basketball program. I've seen their basketball program several years, and it's a great group of kids and very, very competitive. And I would expect nothing less from that. But then, last 3 of the 4 games, the conference games: Chatard, Brebeuf, and Roncalli.
Mm-hmm.
Are you kind of looking a little forward to those, or how are you still just taking it game by game, or you kind of got a plan in the back of your head for those already? Or
you know, we obviously have some familiarity with those programs in that we've played them over some other years, but each year is a brand new version. 2 of the 3 of them have new coaches this year, so some things may be the same, some things may be different. But we really want to treat every week the same as much as possible, and we'll focus on them when we get to them. And first things first, we want to play our best game this week.
Well, Coach, good luck in the game this week against Broad Ripple, and hopefully we will see you next Monday, and we can talk about another Golden Eagle victory. That's Coach Tom Dilley. Thanks for joining us, Coach.
Appreciate it.
This is the Hamilton County Sports Coaches Show. We'll be back with another coach after this.
Locked up?
No.
The program has locked
Oh, I thought you. Welcome back to the Hamilton County Coaches Show, brought to you by Greek's Pizza on South 10th Street in Noblesville. Dine in, or you can take it out at 317-773-4444. The Westfield Chamber of Commerce, Logan Street Signs and Banners, Noblesville Trophies, and the Hamilton County Reporter. We're joined by Hamilton County Assistant Hamilton Southeastern Assistant Coach Matt Alfeld. Coach, it was the Mud Sock game. It turned out to be a game that went right down to the end, and unfortunately for the Royals, they came out on the short end.
It was another in the long line of wild and crazy affairs in the Mudsock game. So, unfortunately, our late comeback couldn't quite finish it off. But good night. The crowd was unbelievable. Just a great atmosphere, and we're really fortunate, in Hamilton Southeastern schools and Hamilton Southeastern and Fishers to get to participate and be a part of an atmosphere like that. It's for high school football in the state of Indiana, there's just nothing like it. And that last Friday didn't disappoint. Only thing that was a bit disappointing was that final outcome. But it was a good night. I think there's some really positive things we can take away from it. But again, we put ourselves in a 20-0 hole at halftime. Almost dug our way out of it, but 20-0 last week, 17-0 the week prior, 14-0 the week prior, 17-0 the week before that. We've got to get off to a faster start, and that was ultimately our downfall.
Well, let's just talk specifically about the game on the offensive side. It was almost like it was a tale of two halves again.
Yeah, we ran 13 plays in the first half, 1 first down. Defense was on the field, pretty much the entire half. Got hit by some big plays, a couple big pass plays, got down there and scored. They had a couple of really nice drives. Ended up going in 20-0 down. Made a change at halftime. Cody Sparks came in, our sophomore quarterback, and started opening up the passing game a little bit. We didn't complete a pass in the first half. Cody came in, worked the ball downfield a little bit, hit some balls in the seam, loosened up their defense a little bit, and I think that opened up our running game some too. Got Jackson Sweeney back from injury and came in and he got some carries, just a handful. We're trying to ease him back in slowly, but we were really, really pleased with what we saw out of Jackson. Optimistic about him going forward. So yeah, it was a good second half for us offensively and defensively. Defensively, we knew to give our offense a chance, we had to keep getting stops. Got one right out of the gates to start the second half. Limited them to, I believe, right around 80 yards for the second half. So, they pretty much owned the line of scrimmage, I thought, in the first half, and they offensive line were getting a huge push, and we really didn't have an answer. Came back out the second half, made a few adjustments, and our kids played very well, and I thought we did a much better job in the second half. Got a couple of takeaways, and ultimately gave our offense a shot. And you've got the ball in there for 35-yard line with about 2 minutes to go, only down by 6. You had a shot, but we threw an interception, and that was the end. So, but we got some things we can take away that are positive.
I saw Sweeney had 4 carries for 24 yards, used conservatively, but I think coming back from the type of injury he had, probably it'll probably take him a while to get back to full strength, won't it?
I think so, and it's something that's bothered him for several months, and hamstrings aren't anything that are gonna be repaired or better quickly. It's going to be a long process, and he's moving around well in practice tonight. He moved around well on Friday, so we're optimistic going forward with Jackson that he's going to be able to work himself into more of a heavy workload, but just to get him out there and see him back in pads on Friday was a nice thing to see.
It just seems like the Fishers Southeastern games through the years have there's been a couple each way where there's been a lopsided victory, lopsided loss, but it just seems like this entire series since Fishers High School came back again in the early 2000s has just been a very competitive series.
Yeah, it's always going to be a battle. I mean, they've got a really good program over there, and Coach Wimmer and his staff do a fantastic job. Those kids are really well coached, and they come out ready to play. And got a bunch of really good players, hard-nosed kids. It's not going to be an easy thing. And like you said, it's not going to be a runaway either way. We feel like on our side we've got some talent on our side too, and we work awfully hard to coach them up as well. So 2 really, really strong programs in the same community is just a win-win for everybody. It's a lot of fun.
Well, the other thing that's nice about it from my perspective is that when these 2 teams get together, regardless of whether it's over at Fishers or whether it's over at Southeastern, number one, you're always going to have a big crowd. You're going to have probably about the evenest crowd as far as you could talk about a home field advantage, but when Fishers comes to Southeastern, they bring a lot of fans with them, and vice versa. When Southeastern goes over to Fishers, they bring a lot of fans, and it's I'm not going to say it's like playing on a neutral field, but it's the atmosphere for both teams is just unreal. And as a person who's witnessed a number of these games throughout the years, if you haven't had the opportunity to see one of these games in person, do come out one of these days and see it, because it is a high school football experience that you will never forget. So the Royals sitting at 1-3 now. The assignment just continues to get tougher and tougher and tougher. Homecoming this weekend, and the Westfield Shamrocks, who just barely beat Noblesville in their house last Friday night. They'll be coming over to Reynolds Royal Stadium and IU Health Field for a 7 o'clock kickoff for homecoming this weekend. Tell us what you see coming in with the Shamrocks.
Well, obviously Westfield's a premier program in the area and the state. 5A state champions. I mean, these guys haven't lost a game in darn near a calendar year. I think week 6 last year, Brownsburg beat them by a point. And that was the last time they've experienced a loss. They're on 12-game winning streak right now, so they're a very dangerous team. They've got offensive weapons all over the place, a good, stout, solid defense. Really like their running back, even from last year.
Freilich is quite the athlete.
Yeah, he's one of the best, if not the best, running backs in the conference, and the quarterback's doing a fantastic job. Also, he's an accurate passer, 60% accuracy, but yet he's going to run it 12 to 15 times a game as well, so he can hurt you with his legs and scrambling. So, lot of things we've got to shore up and take care of, but primarily is just the big play. Defensively, the big play has just plagued us for the last 3 weeks, and that's something where we've got to make teams put together drives, and I think we made some strides last week, but still gave up a couple long passes. So something we've got to continue to work on. But they're a very, very, very good opponent. Obviously they're going to come in there at 4-0, believing. Those kids have a lot of confidence, and they're very well coached. Coach Gilbert and his staff do a fantastic job. So it's definitely going to be a battle, and we're on a 3-game losing streak, and we're trying to right the ship. So like you said, it's not going to be easy, and it's a good opponent coming in.
Well, I think one of the things that for Westfield that is going to be a little bit inspiring for them is a year ago on September 16th, the Royals went to Westfield, to Riverview Health Field, and managed to pull what at that time was considered to be an upset, because they took Westfield from being an undefeated team, beat them by 1 point, and it probably, in all probability, it may have cost them a conference championship. But you saw what ended up happening in the end in 5A. They ended up winning the 5A championship. But the other thing I was going to briefly comment on here is, you look at the Hoosier Crossroad Conference, Coach, from top to bottom, and you've got probably, if not the best, one of the best conferences in many of the sports. And when it comes to the quality of football in the HCC, friends of mine are saying, gee, what's going on with the Royals? Or, what happened to Fishers? Or what happened here? What happened there? And the first thing I do is say, check the conference they're in. And I'm not trying to say that, a 1-3 record is good or acceptable, but it's a tough conference.
It is, and then when you play the types of non-conference schedules that most of our conference schools are playing, you're playing Lawrence Central and Lawrence North and North Central, who's really good, and you're playing Carmel, and you're playing, Ben Davis. Avon played them, so you're stacking yourself up against 6A competition, and as we all know, 6A is just the cream of the crop in the state. So you're not going to have an off week, and it's an absolute grind, and you get in the conference season, and it doesn't get any easier. So it's a great football conference, a great sports conference in general. I've coached baseball in the conference, and it's amazing in baseball, basketball, track and field, golf.
Very competitive.
It's amazing. It's a really good thing for our kids and for our schools to be able to compete in the conference. When Franklin Central comes in, I think it's only going to get better.
Well, I saw something when I was pulling the 6A polls the other day from the September 5th AP media poll. For the first time I can remember, North Central is ranked And that is something that just in football hasn't happened for years. In basketball, it's odd when they're not. But that just, again, just goes to show the quality of not only the HCC but the MIC and the teams in the Indianapolis area.
Absolutely. That sectional 5 is going to be a bear between Pike and North Central, who are both very good. Obviously, Fishers is a fantastic team, and we've got to get better if we're going to have a shot at pulling that thing out.
That's assistant coach Matt Alfeld. Coach Alfeld, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you being here. And at this time, we're going to go to Perry Williams. He had a chance to sit down earlier today with Westfield coach Jake Gilbert.
Well, welcome. I'm Perry Williams, and this is the Hamilton County Coaches Show. And alongside me today is Coach Jake Gilbert of the Westfield Shamrocks. Welcome, Coach.
Hi, Perry. How are you?
Good, good. One thing I want to say before we get started here, we broadcast this week's game, and we kind of brought the whole group over here. It was the only game we did this week, but you as administration, as a coach, what an outstanding job you do over here with your home football games, and you treat Hamilton County TV outstanding. The whole group does, and making sure that we have everything. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
And before we got started here, we talked a little bit about that there was 2 winners here. Of course, you went beating Noblesville 30-26, but also we're a winner because we had numbers that were like playoff numbers. 4,500 viewers have watched the Westfield Noblesville game, so that's exciting to us, and shows you that Hamilton County football is alive and well.
Absolutely. Because we had a great crowd.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So great rivalry. Us and Noblesville. I think a lot of people are interested in watching that. Just Hamilton County football is pretty good.
Yeah,
so,
it's real good.
I think every week there's some really good games, and ours was on tap this week for your station.
Well, absolutely. And the one thing about it, and you kind of called it, I know we always have conversations before we go on the air, and we have conversations when we're on the air, but one of the things that you made, a comment you made, Noblesville is an 0-3 football team, but they're a good football team, and that Jason Simmons and his group will have them prepared.
Absolutely.
You certainly were.
Yeah, I knew. I'm not sure our kids were listening, but I expected a great game from Noblesville. They're extremely well coached. Jason Simmons is one of the best coaches out there, but also his staff. I think they've got a really good staff. Adam Metzger has held our offense down for years. So I knew that they were desperate for a win. I knew that they would come out ready to play. I knew that they would be well coached. I knew they'd have a great plan, and all of that was true. I did not know that we would get off to as slow a start as we did, but obviously very excited to beat a quality team like that and a well-coached team like that. So I feel great about the win, even though they outplayed us for most of the game.
The one thing that I've said a couple times that in watching your game film and everything, and watching you guys in person, you go in at halftime and you make adjustments, and it's a totally different football team. But this game was a 4-quarter football game.
Absolutely.
And I think both coaches made good adjustments at the half, and that's why the third quarter was 0-0. Nobody scored. So that was an important time there in the game, and you got the ball at the end, and but the poise you guys had, it was unbelievable. Even though with I think minute 30 or so, you give up a touchdown and Noblesville goes ahead 2 points.
Yeah.
But your kids, you could tell that they felt like they could score.
Yeah, they expect to win, which is great. The confidence that was oozing out of our guys on that last drive and the efficiency of that drive, obviously that's something we work and practice, but very proud of the execution. And again, just the calmness and the poise. Cam Nance was terrific. Kyle Pepio made a huge play for us on the very first play of that drive. And I just thought the offensive line did a great job letting us run and pass on that last drive.
Absolutely, and it was an exciting game from start to finish. I think it was one of the better football games I've seen for a while. I mean, because it was 4 quarters of football. I mean, and it was both teams made mistakes, both teams adjusted, both teams scored. I mean, so first quarter Noblesville's up 13-7, and you win the second quarter at 10-7. The third quarter 0-0, and of course you got 2 scores in the fourth quarter. So, and they got 1. So that's basically how the game went.
Very even game. 2 very even teams. Blessed that we came out on top for sure.
Yeah, and of course your offense. You're pretty much Freilich and Nance led the way, but there were some other good plays, and your receivers. I know that Wheeler, 2 catches, 79 yards. So, of course, you're talking about Kyle Pepio and what he did that night. So.
Yeah, it was nice to get Dane Wheeler involved. Young kid for us, sophomore. I think he has a great future. So pretty excited that he had the big touchdown catch. Obviously, we don't win without that play. And then, Nate Freilich, typical, what we've come to expect from him, just toughness. And he's at his best the longer the game goes. He's a physical player, so I think he kind of wears people down. And on that last drive, he was terrific. He made a great block. He made 3 runs, and it was just enough for us to get the victory.
Well, I think it was, I'm trying to remember here in the third quarter, the touchdown. I think it was Wheeler. No, was it? We didn't score. Fourth quarter, I think it was, when coming around there along your sidelines there on that run, that was the sidelines to the end zone. The block that Freilich threw was, man, it was a big hit and broke him loose.
Yeah, just awareness. He's just a really good football player.
Yeah.
We had put him out in the slot a little bit in that game just to. We had a couple of receivers injured, and so we played another sophomore. We put Nate out there a little bit, and played sophomore tailback, and it was just what we had to do from a personnel standpoint because we were missing Caleb Pettyjohn and Pat Beam for the game. So he had kind of an outside-in block that really sprung us free on that QB scramble.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you're saying there, this team, you're playing a lot of young kids.
We are, not necessarily the plan, but those guys have earned it. So yeah, we played 8 sophomores in the game in valuable varsity minutes, and again, not really what we try to do per se, but those kids have earned it and they deserve to be out there. So 7 on offense, 1 on defense, and they're doing great. They really are.
And of course, as you said, when you and I had conversations early on about Hauser leading your team in tackles and things like that, you said he'll do that every week. And once again, him and Codwell had a great game. But let's talk a little bit about some of those other defensive players that had some big games.
I just thought up front, again, our defensive tackle play was really good. We felt great about Griffin Lickfeld. He made several plays and tackles, did really, really well. And then Michael Delaney, so those 2 guys at D-tackle in particular I thought were excellent against the run, got a little bit of pressure against the pass. So I was real happy with the way they played overall. Felt like we got the best play that we've gotten so far out of Jeremiah Edwards at outside linebacker. Had a little bit of production, still growing and learning, so has a long way to go, but I felt like that was his best game, so I was excited to see that, see some improvement. He did a good job setting the edge on outside runs to his side and did a better job getting hands on receivers. So we got some improvement there, which was welcomed.
Well, Coach, let's talk a little bit about, we talked about this past week's game, but as usual in the Hoosier Crossroad Conference, it didn't get any easier.
Sure.
And once again, you're facing a team in the Hamilton Southeastern Royals, even though they're 1-3. They're well coached. They have a great coaching staff, a very experienced coaching staff that's been around a long time with Coach May. Let's talk about what we may be able to see here in the Royals, because they'll bounce back. I mean, it's you just hope it's not the week that they play you, right?
The record doesn't mean a whole lot to me. Their losses are to very good football teams, so I'm not too buying into the record too often much, and I'm sure they're not on ours either.
Right.
Our games against HSE are always extremely close. Last year they beat us by 1 point. We beat them the year before, and it was a close game. The year before that they beat us and it was close. We beat them the year before that and it was close. I mean, they're always close. It seems to go back and forth. I hope it's our turn to win, but they're very good. They're very, very talented. I think they kind of found their quarterback late last week, and then they get their tailback back, who's an awesome running back, and so that's he's back just in time for us, which is not great if you're a Rock, but I think they're very good on defense. I feel like May is one of the very best players in our conference. Obviously, they've got the good defensive end. I think they've got a stud corner. I mean, they're good. I think they're well coached on defense. Scott May and I are both defensive-oriented head coaches, and that's kind of what we expect, and I think they're phenomenal on defense.
Yeah, there again, earlier you talked about Adam Metzler, but, Offell is a very good defensive coach for them, a young guy that's...
he does a very, very good job.
Yeah, and so he does a good job over there, so Matt's a good guy, and so it'll be kind of interesting. Now, Coach, a little bit, sometimes I think in basketball, away games can make a huge difference.
Yep.
How about football? I mean, you take the same approach every game, and I'm sure the fans bring a lot into it, but in football you're a little bit more spread out. You're playing on 100, the big football field and everything. Basketball, you're all closed in there. How is it to go on the road once you get your routine set?
I'd like the road games better. Home games are fun. So home games are great for different reasons. Great crowds, we got like the Jumbotron going, the music, the whole community comes out. So home games are fun, and it's a great opportunity to display our team and just be connected with our fans and the community and student body, all those things. Student body always comes out in the field after the games, and all of that's good. But from a coaching standpoint, the away games, you focus a little more. You're on the road, I think you're a little more locked in, like a business trip, as opposed to, all the things going on in the stands and all the distractions. I just think you're a little more focused. So I don't mind playing on the road at all.
Okay. That's kind of what I felt, and thinking back, and broadcasting basketball games, that, it does make a huge difference sometimes. But football, I agree with what you say there, and of course you'll have another element. Don't want to jump ahead, but we'll talk about this next week. Is the following week is your homecoming, which is totally a different thing.
Distraction City, yeah. So we'll deal with that one.
Yeah. But we'll talk about a little bit. But we'll concentrate on Hamilton Southeastern. We'll be broadcasting that game there. Jack Russell and Victor McCarty will be over there at Hamilton Southeastern to broadcast your game, and we're looking forward to doing that. And we appreciate all you guys do here for us at Westfield, and want to thank you. And I'll catch you next week.
You got it.
Thank you.
Then.
Welcome back to the Hamilton County Coaches Show, brought to you by Greek's Pizza. Dine in or carry out at Greek's Pizza on South 10th Street in Noblesville. Give them a call, order it ahead at 317-773-4444. Are the great sponsors, the Westfield Chamber of Commerce, Logan Street Signs and Banners, Noblesville Trophies, and the Hamilton County Reporter. Don't forget, coming up Friday night, we have 2 exciting high school football games. It's 7 o'clock. It'll be the Westfield Shamrocks at the Hamilton Southeastern Royals. And please note that the Noblesville-Zionsville game will start at 7:30. We'd like to thank you for joining us for the Hamilton County Coaches Show. My name is Brad Silbert. We'll do it all again next week. We'll see you then. Good night.